Okay, imagine for a second that you're zooming out, way, way out.
Yeah.
You're looking at the whole timeline of human history, but not as a list of dates, more like a single glowing thread.
Right, and you see all the chaos, the empires, the war.
Exactly. Revolutions, breakthroughs. It just looks messy.
It looks like a seismograph reading during a huge earthquake.
That's a perfect way to put it. And when you look at that chaos, it brings up this fundamental question, the one that keeps philosophers, and let's be honest, probably us, awake at night, is that whole timeline just a series of random explosions, caused by these exceptional freak of nature people? Is history just one genius after another crashing into the world? Or is it a script?
And that's the much scarier alternative, isn't it?
It is a rational, logical script that's writing itself, and we, even the most powerful among us, are just, characters reciting lines.
This is really the core of it. It's the question of where meaning enters time. Does it come from us, from our will, or is meaning already there and it's just unfolding through us?
And that is the hook for today. We're doing a deep dive into this fascinating text. It's titled The Individual and the Absolute.
A heavy title.
It is, yeah, but don't let that scare you, because what it really outlines is basically a cage match, a philosophical UFC fight between two absolute titans.
And they could not be more different in how they see the world.
In the red corner, you've got the great man theory from the Scottish historian Thomas Carlyle. This is the idea that history is all about drama, rupture, sheer force of personality.
And in the blue corner, the heavyweight champ of German idealism, G.W.F. Hegel. His argument is for what he calls objective rationality. For Hegel, history isn't accidents. It's a process.
A process. I like this setup. And, to make this interesting, I'm going to take a side. I'm rooting for Carlyle, for the great man. It just feels, I don't know, more human. It makes me feel like I matter more.
Well, it's definitely more flattering to the ego. So, naturally, I'll take the difficult side. I'll stand with Hegel. And I'm going to argue that your so-called rule breakers are actually just following the rules of history, even when they don't realize it.
Okay, I like it. So the mission for everyone listening is pretty simple. By the end of this, we want you to have a better sense of whether you're the author of your own life or just an expression of forces you can't control.
Let's get into it.
All right, let's start with the case for the great man.
Go on. Make the case for the individual.
So under Carlyle's view, and I think this is how most of us feel, intuitively, history is raw material. That's the phrase the source uses. The world has no plan. It's plastic, it's directionless, it's just sitting there.
Waiting for someone to come along and give it shape.
Precisely. The era doesn't make the man makes the era. And the source talks about this concept of immanent genius, but he uses a really specific word for where that genius comes from: exogenous.
Meaning it comes from outside the current system.
Right. Greatness isn't something that's, brewed up by the culture. It doesn't just evolve. It drops in like a meteor. The great man isn't a product of his time. He's a shock to his time.
That is a very romantic view. It suggests nothing's inevitable. Change the cast and you change the entire play.
Nothing is inevitable. That's the beauty of it. History moves through ruptures. It's not some organic garden growing. It's a series of car crashes,
Yeah.
collisions of sheer will. And the source uses this counterfactual argument that I think is so hard to refute. It says, remove Caesar, and Rome does not become Rome.
It's the butterfly effect, but with emperors.
Exactly. If you take that one guy, Julius Caesar, out of the equation, the whole timeline just shatters. Maybe the Republic survives. Maybe Gaul is never conquered. Without that one person, history is fundamentally different. It's all accidental.
A drama authored by sovereign personalities.
Sovereign personalities. I love that. It means the individual is king.
It is a compelling story. It really puts the extraordinary human at the center of everything. It makes us feel powerful. But, and this is where I have to step in with Hegel, it might just be a total illusion.
An illusion. How is Caesar crossing the Rubicon an illusion? The man physically marched an army and overturned a government. That seems pretty real.
The event was real. The cause is the illusion. You see Caesar deciding to cross the river and you think, I'm doing this for power, for my dignity. Hegel looks at that and basically says, that's cute.
Hegel is a bit condescending.
Oh, very. But here's the pivot. Hegel completely challenges this idea of accidental history. He brings in the metaphysics of objective rationality.
Which I have to say sounds way less exciting than great man. It sounds like a corporate mission statement.
It's drier, for sure, but it's so much deeper. Hegel argues that history isn't just open-ended. It's not just one damn thing after another. It is a structured process.
Structured by what? If not by people. Who's writing the script?
The world spirit, or Geist, in the original German. The text describes history as the immanent logic of the absolute, slowly coming to self-awareness.
Okay, hold up. We have to unpack that. Immanent logic of the absolute is a mouthful. What does that actually mean for someone listening to this on their commute?
Okay, think of it this way. For Carlyle, the world is like a pile of clay. It just sits there until a sculptor comes along and decides to make a vase.
Right, and the sculptor is the genius.
But for Hegel, the world isn't clay. It's a seed, an acorn.
An acorn, okay, I'm with you.
An acorn doesn't need an outside sculptor to tell it how to become an oak tree. The plan is already inside the acorn. It's encoded. It just needs time and the right conditions to unfold. And the world spirit is that same kind of unfolding logic, but for freedom and reason in human history.
So if history is this acorn growing into a tree, where does that leave my great man? Where does Caesar fit in? Is he just a leaf?
It reframes him completely. The great man isn't a miracle. He's a symptom.
Ouch.
Yeah.
A symptom, like the flu.
A symptom of the age. The world spirit produces the conditions, the political tensions, the economic needs, and the individual is just the medium. He's the crack in the pavement where the pressure that's been building up finally escapes.
So Caesar didn't change Rome. Rome used Caesar to change itself.
Exactly. The source calls this a causality inversion, and this is the key point. For Carlyle, causality ascends. It goes from the individual up to the world.
I push, the world moves. Simple.
For Hegel, causality descends. It goes from the totality, the big picture, down to the individual. The individual doesn't create history. They actualize what was already implicit. They're just turning a page in a book that's already been written.
That feels so claustrophobic. It makes it feel like our choices don't really matter.
Or, to flip it, it feels like we're part of something much larger than ourselves. It takes away the randomness. It says there's a point to all of this.
Well, let's test it. Let's take this out of the clouds. The source gives us the perfect case study. The one figure who shows up in both theories.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
The little corporal. Now, from my perspective, the great man perspective, Napoleon is the ultimate argument for sheer will. I mean, look at the guy's resume.
And it's impressive, yeah.
Impressive. It's impossible. He comes from nowhere, a minor noble from Corsica, and he literally bends Europe to his will. Rewrites maps, topples kings, changes laws. He imposed his vision on the world through sheer audacity.
No one can deny his impact, that's for sure.
Right. So when you look at Napoleon, you see a man who grabbed the steering wheel of history and just jerked it into a new lane. He is the definition of a rupture. Without him, the 19th century is completely different.
Yeah.
You can't tell me the world spirit just had a Napoleon-shaped hole waiting to be filled.
But that is exactly what Hegel argues. And remember, Hegel actually saw Napoleon. He saw him riding through Jena and famously called him the world spirit on horseback.
Which sounds like a compliment, but I'm guessing there's a catch.
The catch is that Hegel sees him as mediator, not an author. The source makes this brilliant point. Napoleon didn't march across Europe to, realize the dialectic of freedom.
No, of course not. He marched because he was ambitious and wanted power and glory.
Precisely. He did it for himself, for his own passions. But look at what he actually accomplished.
He conquered a lot of land.
But what lasted? He spread the Napoleonic Code. He broke the back of feudalism. He spread the ideals of the French Revolution, meritocracy, legal equality. He did the work that the age needed to have done.
So you're saying he did the right thing for the wrong reasons?
I'm saying his originality was actually what the source calls heightened receptivity. He wasn't imposing some alien order on Europe. He just saw, better than anyone else, what Europe was already trying to become. The old feudal order was rotting. He just gave it the final kick.
So he didn't build the door, he just kicked it down.
And he didn't even know why he was kicking it. That's the paradox. Napoleon felt most free, most powerful, acting on his own ambition. But in that moment, he was actually most aligned with the script of history.
That is a spooky thought. That the moment you feel most powerful, most you, is when you're just being the most efficient cog in the machine.
Hegel would say, you're a bearer of history, not a cog. You're carrying it forward. The content of your life isn't your own ego, it's the spirit of the time.
But what about the cost? Because this is where the great man theory gets a little dark, and where Hegel gets honestly terrifying.
Yes. We have to talk about the moral implications.
If I'm defending the great man, I have to address what the source calls the ethics of exception. Because, let's be honest, great men are not usually good men. They're often violent, cruel. Napoleon wasn't a saint.
They leave a lot of destruction behind them.
Right. But the great man theory sort of excuses it. It says, look, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. We judge them, but we also marvel at their creative power. The judgment is, like, personal and tragic. He was great, but flawed.
Hegel goes so much further than that. He doesn't just excuse it, he integrates it into the system. He has this concept called the cunning of reason.
I love that phrase. It sounds like a villain's plan. The cunning of reason.
It kind of is. The world spirit advances itself through human passions. It uses our ambition, our greed, our violence. It uses Napoleon's massive ego to spread civil rights across Europe.
So the world spirit is just manipulating us, dangling a carrot so we pull its cart.
It's indifferent to us as individuals. The source is very clear on this. The world spirit is indifferent to individual suffering.
That's the really unsettling part. It's so cold.
It is. It's the coldness of a mathematical equation. Hegel argues for ethical supersession, that existing moral orders, our ideas of right and wrong, are finite. They're temporary, and sometimes for a higher form of freedom to emerge, the old world has to be destroyed.
So the hero, this world historical individual, he just annihilates worlds that have lost their legitimacy. And if innocent people get crushed.
They're casualties of progress. Hegel's verdict is that history is not kind, it is not just, it is not compassionate, it is rational.
And that's the part I just can't get behind.
Yeah.
It is rational.
Yeah.
That implies all the suffering, all the tragedy. It was all necessary. It was part of the plan.
That's the Hegelian pill you have to swallow. If you believe history has a destination, like freedom, then the road to get there, no matter how bloody, is justified by where you end up.
I don't know if I can swallow that. I think I prefer the romance of the great man, even with all the flaws, because at least there's agency there. The idea that I can stand apart from my time, I can look at the world, say no, and push back. The source says agency is absolute in aspiration. I might fail, but at least I'm trying.
But look at the Hegelian definition of freedom. This is where people get Hegel wrong. They think freedom means doing whatever I feel like.
Isn't it? If I want ice cream for breakfast, that's freedom.
For Hegel, no, that's just caprice. That's being a slave to your impulses. Real freedom is rational self-determination.
Rational self-determination.
Okay, decode that for me.
It means understanding the laws of reality and aligning yourself with them. Think about gravity. Jumping off a cliff because you want to defy gravity isn't freedom. You're just falling.
Great. You're splatting. Freedom is building an airplane. It's understanding the laws of aerodynamics, the rationality of it, and using them to fly. The Hegelian individual is free when they understand where the current of history is flowing and they swim with it, but faster and better than anyone else.
So the only freedom is to agree with the script.
To understand the script and to play your part with brilliance.
So we're back to that core conflict. Drama versus dialectic.
Exactly.
My view, Carlyle's, it gives us heroes. It gives us possibility. It says tomorrow could be anything if the right person shows up. It's exciting, but it's also chaotic.
And my view, Hegel's, gives us necessity, coherence. It says we're moving towards something better, even if it hurts. But as the source notes, it's a terrifying coherence.
Terrifying coherence. That's the phrase that stuck with me. Because in your world, even rebellion just serves the order.
Even the rebel is playing their part in the dialectic.
So if I try to burn the system down, the system just says, thanks, I needed that fire to clear the brush for the next phase.
That's pretty much it. You can't escape the logic.
That is just maddening.
It is. But let's look at the synthesis here. The source concludes that both theories hold a partial truth.
Right. It says history requires individuals. The world spirit needs hands and feet. It needs a Napoleon to actually ride the horse.
But those individuals are never as free as they imagine. They're shaped by their context in ways they can't even see.
We're indispensable, but we're not sovereign.
I think that's a healthy place to land. It avoids the narcissism of the great man theory, but also avoids the fatalism of thinking we're just robots.
And it connects right back to you, the listener. Think about your own life, the last time you achieved something big.
And ask yourself, did you invent that moment from scratch? Or did you just recognize that the moment had arrived?
Did you just hoist your sail at the exact second the wind picked up?
It's probably a bit of both. You had to hoist the sail, that's the great man part. But you didn't create the wind, that's the Hegel part.
I like that. The wind in the sail. So the source leaves us with this final haunting idea. It says, we act. And in acting, we discover that something older, larger, and more rational has been acting through us.
It really decenters the ego, doesn't it?
It sends a shiver down my spine. The idea that my biography is just a footnote in a much larger book.
Or that your biography is the ink the larger book is written in.
So, to everyone listening, are you a player or are you a pawn? Or are you a player who thinks they're moving the pieces, when really the board is moving you?
It's a question worth asking the next time you feel like you're in control.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep questioning the script.
And keep reading the signs.
See you next time.